February 26th, 1959. The Ural Mountains, Soviet Union. A search party climbs through the snow. They are looking for 9 experienced hikers who stopped sending news 4 weeks ago. On a bare mountain slope, they find a tent. It is half buried in snow. Everything is still inside. Boots, warm coats, food, cameras, even the diaries. But the tent is empty, and when they look closer, they see something that makes no sense. The tent was not opened. It was cut, long slashes through the canvas, from the inside. 9 people cut their way out of their own tent, walked into a night of minus 30 degrees, most of them barefoot in their underwear, and never came back. What could make 9 experienced hikers run from the safest place on that mountain? This is Obscura Files. Every episode, one case, the facts, the theories, and a verdict. File number 2, opened February 1959, closed by Soviet investigators 4 months later, with 3 words no one has ever explained: an unknown compelling force. They called it the DYATLOV Pass incident. Here is what we know for certain. The group left the city of Sverdlovsk in late January. 9 students and graduates of the Ural Polytechnic Institute, 7 men, 2 women, led by 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov. All of them were experienced. This was not their first winter expedition. It was meant to be their hardest. A 300-kilometer route to a mountain the local Mansi people called Kholat Shakal. In the Mansi language, the name means dead mountain. On February 1st, the group made a strange decision. Instead of camping in the forest below, where there was shelter and firewood, they pitched their tent high on the open slope, exposed to the wind. Some researchers believe Dyatlov wanted the practice. Others believe they simply lost daylight. That night, they cooked, wrote in their diaries, and even made a small handmade newspaper joking about the trip. The last photographs on their cameras show them setting up the tent in heavy wind and falling snow. Then, silence. When the group missed their return date, families demanded a search. Volunteers, soldiers, and pilots combed the mountains. On February 26th, they found the tent, cut open from the inside, everything left behind. The bodies were found in waves, and each wave made the case stranger. The first 2 men were found at the edge of the forest, 1.5 kilometers downhill, under a tall cedar tree, next to the remains of a small fire. They were in their underwear. The branches of the tree were broken up to 5 meters high. Someone had climbed it or tried to. 3 more bodies were found on the slope between the tree and the tent, among them Igor Dyatlov himself. The physicians told a story. They had died trying to crawl back to the tent, back into the wind. The doctors ruled that all 5 died of hypothermia, freezing. The last 4 were not found until May, when the snow began to melt. They were lying in a ravine, deeper in the forest, under 4 meters of snow. And they changed everything. These 4 were dressed, some in clothes taken from the dead. But their injuries were unlike the others. 1 man's skull was fractured. 2 had crushed chests, ribs broken with a force that doctors compared to a car crash. And the body of Lyudmila Dubinina was missing her tongue and her eyes. One more detail, buried in the files for decades. Tests found traces of radioactivity on some of their clothing. The Soviet investigation closed the case in May 1959. Cause of death: an unknown compelling force. The files were sealed. The area was closed to hikers for 3 years. 60 years of theories, Let's test the 4 that survived. Theory 1, an avalanche. It was always the obvious answer and always the problem. The slope looked too gentle for an avalanche, about 23 degrees. No debris was found. The tent poles were still standing. Rescuers saw footprints leading calmly away from the tent, walking, not running. For decades, this killed the avalanche theory. Then, in 2021, 2 scientists from Switzerland built a model, not of a normal avalanche, of a small slab avalanche, a block of hard, compacted snow, maybe 5 meters wide, sliding onto the tent while everyone slept. The model showed it was possible. The group had cut into the slope to level the tent, weakening the snow above. Hours later, a slab could break loose, heavy enough to crush ribs and skulls against the rigid floor of packed equipment, small enough to leave almost no trace by morning. It is the strongest scientific explanation the case has ever had, but even its authors admit a model shows what could have happened, not what did. Theory 2, infrasound. Wind flowing around the dome shape of the mountain can create a rare effect. A vortex street, air pressure waves below the range of human hearing. Infrasound cannot be heard, but it can be felt. Panic, nausea, a crushing sense of dread with no visible cause. The theory says the group fled the tent in irrational terror. It fits the behavior. It explains nothing about the injuries, and it can never be tested. That night's wind died with that night. Theory 3, a military accident. This one refuses to die for 3 reasons. The radioactivity on the clothes, reports from other hikers that same night of orange spheres of light moving across the sky, and the fact that some case files remained classified for decades. The theory says the group witnessed or was caught in a secret weapons test, and the scene was arranged afterward. The counter-argument is simple. The radioactivity has a boring possible source. 2 group members had worked at a nuclear facility, and contamination could have come from their own clothes. The orange spheres match rocket launches from a known cosmodrome, and sealed files were normal in the Soviet Union. Everything fits, and everything has an innocent explanation. That is exactly why this theory survives. Theory 4, the Muncie. The local people were suspects for about 5 minutes in 1959. Investigators found their testimony consistent, their tracks absent, and no motive at all. The Mansi had helped the search. This theory survives only on the internet. The file itself dismissed it, and so do we. So here is the verdict. The most likely story, based on the evidence: a slab of snow struck the tent in the dark. Some were injured, badly. The others cut the canvas and pulled everyone out, fearing a second, larger slide. In minus 30 degrees, half-dressed, they made the only choice available: reach the tree line, make fire, survive until dawn. They almost did. The fire failed. The strongest tried to return for the equipment and froze on the slope. The injured were carried to the shelter of the ravine, where the snow that saved them from the wind slowly buried them. It is a complete story. It requires no monsters and no missiles. And yet, the case file still says unknown compelling force, because in 1959, the investigators saw the same slope we see and did not believe it. The missing tongue and eyes have a natural explanation: running water and time, but no proof. And the radioactivity was never traced to its source. Speculation? The mountain's name was a warning no one meant literally: Kholat Shachol, Dead Mountain. Perhaps the Mansi were not naming a legend. Perhaps they were naming the wind. File number 2 remains open. Next file. A book written in an alphabet that does not exist, in a language no computer on earth can read. 600 years old, still unread. File number 3. The Voynich manuscript. This is Obscura Files.